Hallo und herzlich willkommen hier aus der American Airlines Arena in Miami. Vor wenigen Minuten ist hier das NBA-Match der Miami Heat und der Utah Jazz zu Ende gegangen und die Heat, sie haben ihren vierten Erfolg hintereinander eingefahren. Am Ende stand ein 103:102 Erfolg für das Team von Headcoach Eric Spoelstra zu Buche. Ich habe mich heute mal nach der Partie nicht mit einem Spieler der Miami Heat oder Utah Jazz unterhalten, sondern vielmehr einem Mann, den ja die Basketballfans in Deutschland mit Sicherheit kennen. Er taucht immer dann auf, wenn die Miami Heat ihre Heim- und Auswärtsspiele austragen. Die Rede ist vom Courtside-Reporter der Miami Heat, von Jason Jackson, genannt Jax. Er macht diesen Job jetzt mittlerweile schon in seiner 14. NBA-Saison. Heraus kam ein sehr, sehr kurzweiliges und lustiges Gespräch mit vielen Erinnerungen. Und was Jax in diesem Interview alles gesagt hat, das könnt ihr euch jetzt anschauen. Viel Spaß! It's time. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the TV host and the courtside reporter from the Miami Heat, Jason Jackson. Jax, it's great to have you here. Thank you very much. Normally you use the questions, and now you're in my hands. How do you feel now?
It is a little different. It's a little different, but I enjoy the fact that you're here and that you radiate this wonderful game, specifically this franchise, back to Germany. So I'll do my very best, but I am used to asking the question. So if a question comes back after you ask, it's just natural. That's all. It was, my very first game was a preseason game against the Rockets, I'm almost positive, in Houston. And it was the first broadcast experience I had without a teleprompter. And I don't think I even considered that there wouldn't be a teleprompter. For anybody who doesn't know, so on a camera, there is a mirror that reflects, and then the words kind of come through and provide you with what you're going to say. Where I used to work at ESPN, we would still write all those things, but you at least had it. So it was a little different. It was a little different right off the jump. I don't think we had a pregame show for that particular game, but I was unnerved, to say the least, about being courtside my first game, no teleprompter, had to commit everything to memory. So I came up with a system that worked out, called some old colleagues back at ESPN who did shows without teleprompter, and got some nice tidbits on how to put my notes together, get my thoughts straight, so I wouldn't lose my mind or my place and know exactly where to go next. Yeah, it's actually really, I think, the primary function of my role. You know, Eric and Tony are over there. They're calling the game. You get the X and O's, you get the trends and everything. I'm the storyteller. And so I get to spend time with players off the floor at philanthropic events, in their own business endeavors, away from basketball, get to know their families as well. And my job is to bring Heat Nation into spaces where they usually couldn't go. And so I take that extremely seriously and have a ball doing it. Hot Seconds is totally just placating to my desire to be a game show host. And it's never going to happen for me, so that's the closest it's going to ever get. Yeah. It's always the first one. It's always the first one. It's tough for a lot of people to admit that, but I think for this town to have never experienced an NBA championship, and it had been so long since a title, even at that point, I think it had been, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 years since the Marlins had won. It had been decades since the Dolphins had won, a little while since the Hurricanes had won a title, 4 or 5 years. So the town was ready for a parade. And the acquisition of Shaquille opened up my job opportunity on top of it. It was a bigger show and a bigger deal. So the 2006 championship's always going to be just this much, that's just a smidge more special, even though 12 and 13 were awesome as well. Yeah, obviously Pat Riley coming out of the front office and returning to coaching, taking nothing from what Stan Van Gundy was doing, but at that time, so many dominant personalities. As Dwayne was coming up, you still had Shaquille and Gary Payton and Jason Williams, Antoine Walker. I mean, guys that had done a lot in the league, but that thing, which was winning the title. And so having Pat, who had obviously coached and played in championships, return to the sidelines was pretty impactful. And then the team learning how to use its massive personality, bring it all together, and channel that into a title. Now, I think the agony and the misery of losing to Detroit the season before in the conference finals probably put a bad taste in their mouth and really drove everything in that next year. But you still got to go win the games, you know, and you still have to get over adversity, being down 0-2 to Dallas to start off that series, let alone getting to it to begin with. Yeah, I never mitigate winning. Winning is the only thing, and so I always tip my cap to that first. You have to go out and beat your opponent. Did every Miami Heat player play to their best of their ability? No, that didn't happen. But that's not to say that that wasn't induced by the way that the Dallas Mavericks played, the way that they schemed against a team that looked unbeatable. So you got to give them credit for the victory first. Yeah, I'll say it this way. He is the finest international player that's ever played this game. And that, listen, I have a lot of respect for guys that came over and played college here first, but I mean just directly from another country, coming to this game, not having played in the United States at all, no one's better. And the fact that he's been able to do it for as long as he has, he did it at the championship level, did it at the MVP level, that puts him in a whole nother space. Someone challenged me with Akeem Olajuwon. I said, he's disqualified. He played college basketball in the States, so I'm not counting him in that same conversation. So that's how I kind of quantify the space. But then the adjustments he's made to his game. You know, now LeBron and Kevin Durant are trying that same crazy off-leg, day-leg fall-away shot that still not guardable. I don't care if the man's 40 or if he's 50, he'll still be able to make that shot, and you respect that. I likened it to being someone who works as a roadie in a rock concert tour. My job was just, grab some speaker wire and keep the show moving. But for anybody that's been around a huge concert, running around Germany or around Europe, you realize it's a big show. Everybody wants to see it. Your town, every other town. It's a spectacle. And that's what that had become. And I was just glad to be a part of it. It's weird. It just is. And it's always going to be weird because he's a Heat lifer. He's what embodies being a part of a franchise forever. Coming in, impacting the franchise, winning titles, putting yourself at the top of every column in the record book. That's a franchise face and a franchise player. So many things come into negotiations that are part of the human existence. Pride, one of them. I think everybody, both sides, would admit at this phase it was avoidable, and we all can't wait to get back together. Number 3 is going to be in this rafter forever. How we get to that, I'm not sure. It'd be great if he was in the uniform one more time on this floor. It's not necessary, but I think for the story to be full and complete, for a Heat fan, that would be the way to do it. Well, I think, first of all, he so appreciates this league. He so loves this profession of coaching and developing young players in basketball. But the fact that he started in this organization when I first worked in Miami, he got the job. I left for 10 years to go work at ESPN. I came back, and he's still in the organization. So to be so young and to have so many years in the same place, this is his 23rd season, is unprecedented. And so he knows the DNA. He has the confidence of the owner and the head of our organization, and that's very rare. For him to have the type of stability that only exists currently, you could probably compare it best to San Antonio, Dallas, Golden State starting to build that now. It's rare. Usually the first thing that an organization turns to when things are going wrong is, well, let's change the coach. Well, you see what's changed around here. It's not been the coach. And so maybe the players will come and go, but they'll know there's one way that we're going to do this. You're going to work hard. You're going to be in the gym a lot. There's not going to be a ceiling on who and what you can be in this game. That's what I love most about Spo as a coach. He's open mind of how to play and how a player can develop, having no limits on that. That's a tough one. I'm a LeBron guy. Obviously, this time here helps. We're both from Ohio. I want to put Curry in the conversation, but the only reason why I stop is because LeBron basically can get anything done anywhere. Like they couldn't have gone around. LeBron can do anything, anywhere, anytime on the floor. From defensive end to rebounding to passing to shooting. There comes a point sometimes where he's not guardable. Because of his size, Curry probably can be. Durant's very close to being in that space. Now, Curry can keep moving back and keep shooting from 35 feet if he wants to, but there's something about the imposing physical nature of LeBron that I think still has him at the top of the list. I said at the beginning of the year that it was going to be Houston and Cleveland. I'm going to be wrong with that pick. It's going to be Cleveland. It's going to be Golden State again. I know the people in Toronto and Boston don't want to hear it. Cleveland is just starting to get their act together. And you start watching them now over the next month, you'll see as they've now added Isaiah Thomas, a couple other healthy bodies. I mean, come on, Dwayne Wade's a sixth man on that team. I mean, so it's going to be part 4 coming up. Everyone says it's Michael, right? It's Michael Jordan. For me, it's Magic Johnson. That's sentimental. He was the first guard of his type to be 6'9" and to be a point guard. All the winning he did. The way that he has extended his encore career, I think even adds to his greatness. Being a billionaire, having owned the Dodgers, now in leadership for the Lakers, is obviously loved organization of his. The things that he's done in the community, the way that we view HIV and AIDS changed a lot because of Magic. And so his totality, his reach, he being my favorite athlete, any sport, let alone basketball, for me pushes him a little past MJ. Please, MJ, it's not anything personal, except that this is personal.